This piece of kit is a Zhiyun Smooth 4. As someone who uses filmmaking gear regularly, trust me when I say Zhiyun makes some amazing gimbals, and for a killer price. If you haven't seen one of these before, well, they're pretty mesmerising. The basic point is, it keeps your phone extremely stable, with almost every jerk being taken out of the shot. The Zhiyun Smooth 4 is an electronic gimbal that works by using a complex array of electronics, sensors, motors, and physics to accomplish the seemingly impossible task of cancelling out motion on the fly before it reaches the camera. It keeps bumps and jolts from ever reaching the camera, as it really does sit motionless in the middle of all this activity. So basically, in other words, the gimbal is basically a robot Tai Chi master. In the box, which Zhiyun definitely gets my approval for presentation, you'll find a small pamphlet of regulatory information detailing how to set it up, and that Android compatibility might be slightly limited. However, this really wasn't the case with my Galaxy S9. I suggest you pause the video here to see a full list of compatible phones. iPhones definitely work though. Then onto a styrofoam case embedding the mini tripod, USB-C cable, USB Type-C cable, and finally the gimbal itself. Looking at the gimbal itself, the first thing I notice is just how light it is. I could easily hold this thing for long periods of time without it being a problem. And even though this gimbal is only built from plastic, it feels well made and pretty sturdy. I wouldn't imagine it breaking that easily if it gets dropped, although I probably wouldn't recommend it. You'll find a plethora of hardware buttons on the front of the gimbal, however if you do have small hands these might be harder to operate. These buttons tie in with the app which connects via Bluetooth, so you're able to virtually control every setting from these buttons. By far my favourite feature though must be the follow focus wheel on the side. When used in conjunction with the app you can precisely pull manual focus or even zoom if you want. After attaching the included tripod, which threads on the bottom with a standard camera thread, the gimbal can be set down on a surface. This is really good for vloggers who just want to put it down on a surface from time to time, but also if you just want to rest the gimbal down. Setup is extremely straightforward. Once you've downloaded the ZY Play app for Android or iPhone, you can turn the gimbal on, which will calibrate automatically and level your phone. Then simply connect via Bluetooth to the app and it will bring up the viewfinder to start filming. But one note, don't do what I did and forget to extend this arm here for counterbalance if you're using a large phone, otherwise your gimbal will error every 2 minutes. Yeah, definitely don't do that. The motors are completely silent, and as far as gimbals go, I really can't find any faults with the stability and smoothness. You're able to access all of your native camera functions through the app, and use the hardware buttons to navigate and quickly access certain settings. I can shoot up to 4K 60fps on my Galaxy S9 within the app, and other settings like full manual mode really makes this great for filmmaking. I would recommend getting an ND filter for your phone though, so you're able to avoid having your shutter speed really high and getting footage that doesn't really look too smooth. I'm really impressed by how feature-packed the purpose-built app is, and it really should be fine for the majority of people. However, the good news is, if you do use Filmic Pro for iPhone, then it is somewhat supported. The gimbal has several different modes. The first one is called PF on the switch, which stands for pan follow, and will smoothly pan and follow your hand left or right, but most importantly won't tilt up or down so you can maintain a stable shot. Then the L mode on the switch means lock, not anything else, and essentially locks all the access so the phone is motionless and locked in that position. One downside to note though is that there's no joystick, so to emulate that you would need to practice using the follow mode to emulate the joystick, but you wouldn't be able to move it on a flat surface, so that's a little bit of a shame. There is also 2 conveniently placed triggers on the back which you can hold down to enable a full follow mode which smoothly follows your hand in pan and tilt, which you can use to emulate the joystick. And then a top trigger which enables phone go mode, which will responsively follow your movements very quickly and to help you get some awesome whip pan like transitions, or maybe a point of view shot where they're looking around very quickly. There are also 2 of my favourite modes built into the app which utilise some of the gimbal's functions really nicely. The first one is the time-lapse tool, which you are able to set a time and a rotation to then it will slowly rotate and record a time-lapse, and the end result comes out looking really nice. The other mode is vertigo mode, which is a very popular type of shot cinematographers like to use. If you haven't seen it before, it's essentially zooming out while walking forward, or vice versa, to achieve some really trippy looking footage, and as you can see, it looks pretty awesome. I didn't have anyone to test it on, but I tested on a Leaf, and it looks pretty awesome still. So, you know, you can really use it to make your scenes stand out. And just touching on battery life, Zhiyun claims it can run for 12 hours on a full charge. I wasn't able to test this fully, but while charging it did take a while. I used it for a whole day and only used around half the battery, which gives it a thumbs up from me. You can also charge your phone from the gimbal's battery using the small micro USB plug in the top, but you'll have to go and buy a flat ribbon cable, and the only vendor I found that sold it was AliExpress. I'll leave a link in the description if you're interested. So that brings me on to my last few points. I really can't find much, if anything, to fault this gimbal. At the price point too, if you're in any way into mobile filmmaking, then this really is a must-have tool. Apart from there being no joystick and there being a slight issue where the gimbal would appear on my footage on the Galaxy S9, and the AF tracking not being compatible with the S9 too, I really would recommend this gimbal. It does what it says on the tin, and it does it really well. It doesn't break the bank compared to the competition, and it has even convinced me to think about buying the bigger Zhiyun crane for my DSLR camera.